Secrets unfold in the dusty corners of an attic. The sunlight barely slipped through the small, grimy window of Elvira's attic, a place where cobwebs danced like ghosts in the corners. It smelled of musty paper and faded dreams, a sanctuary for forgotten moments, or perhaps a prison of old secrets. Clara stood there, her heart racing, the air thick with the weight of the past. This attic had always felt odd to her, full of shadows with whispered stories clawing at the edges of her mind. She'd come here hoping to escape the swirling storm of grief that had settled in her chest since her mother had passed. Painting had been her refuge, pouring out colors and feelings, trying to capture the world's beauty while it felt tarnished by sorrow. But today, she was searching for something more, some piece of herself lost in the tangled history of her family. And here, among the dusty boxes, Clara felt a magnetic pull, as if the attic itself was alive and beckoning her closer. Her fingers brushed against a box, its edges frayed and worn, a curious mix of old leather and the scent of cedar. She hesitated, a shiver running down her spine. What could be inside? Stories held within those folds of yellowed paper were waiting to leap into the light. She pried it open, gasping as she unveiled a treasure trove of letters, fragile lines of ink spilling over emotions like rain. Each one felt like a key to a locked door, each a voice calling out from the depths of her family's past. As she unwrapped the first letter, the ink smudged slightly, telling tales of heartache and resilience. The words spoke of a forgotten brother, a child abandoned to an orphanage. Her heart plummeted at the thought. Clara felt a thunderous clap in her chest. How had she never known? Was this the missing piece of the puzzle she'd been trying to force into the frame of her life? The letter spoke of love and loss, a difficult choice made by her grandmother that echoed like thunder through generations. Hands trembled as she pieced together the fragments of a family she thought she understood. "Elvira, how could you hide this from me?" she whispered into the stillness, looking up as if her grandmother might reveal herself from the shadows. But the old woman stayed silent, her face a mask of sorrow and fear. Fear of digging up bones best left buried. The attic felt even more claustrophobic now, trapping Clara in the very stories she longed to uncover. Each letter was a pulse, echoing in the silence, amplifying her yearning for connection. Could she dare to confront her grandmother with these revelations? Or was letting those memories lie safer than risking the bond they had? Time slipped away as the shadows lengthened around her. Clara's heart raced with urgency as she clutched a postcard, the name on it swirling like a riddle in her mind. Would chasing this truth deepen the chasm of grief or help her find herself amidst the wreckage of her identity? She stood at a crossroads, teetering on the edge of discovery, determined yet fearful, each breath a fragile prayer for clarity. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Clara stood at the crossroads, the postcard trembling in her hands. The name on it felt like an echo, vibrating against her chest. She looked out the attic window, the sunlight slanting like a warning, unsure if it was guiding her or pushing her away. Suddenly, a loud thud reverberated through the house, shaking the very beams of the attic, sending a cloud of dust swarming around her. Tension coiled in Clara's stomach. Was someone else here? She called out, "Is anyone there?" But her voice felt hollow, swallowed by the attic's oppressive silence. Just as she turned to peek through the stacks of boxes, the thud came again, this time followed by a soft, muffled sound. It was almost like crying. Panic clawed at her throat, but a fierce curiosity pulled her forward. She moved deeper into the attic, heart pounding louder than a drum. The noise came from a closet she barely noticed, a shadowy corner she had ignored. She hesitated, then thrust the door open. Inside, she found something nearly hidden beneath old blankets, a trunk with a rusty lock. The moment she laid eyes on it, everything about her grief and her search for truth faded to the background. Clara's fingers trembled as she yanked the trunk open. But instead of letters and memories, the inside was stuffed with photographs. They were yellowed and frayed, but one image leapt out at her, a woman with familiar features staring back with striking intensity. Clara's heart dropped. It was her mother, but beside her stood a man, a face she didn't recognize. Something was off. She picked up the photo, squinting to read the faded words scrawled on the back. "To my dearest Elvira, I will never forget." Before she could process, the attic door banged open, and Clara spun around. A figure stood silhouetted in the doorway. It only took a second for her to realize it was Elvira, eyes wide with fear. "Clara, no!" she shouted, rushing forward. "What is this?" Clara demanded, holding the photograph aloft like a shield. "Who is he?" The questions spilled out, fast and frantic. "Elvira, please, just tell me." Tears brimmed in Elvira's eyes, raw and desperate. "You need to leave this alone. It's not what you think. I don't even know what to think, but I won't walk away from this. She's my mother, too." The air crackled with tension. Then, just as a silence fell, Elvira's trembling hand reached for another letter, previously hidden in her skirt. This belongs to you, Clara. I was going to wait until you were ready." The moment Clara took the letter, everything changed. Elvira's pained expression crumbled into something darker. With a piercing look, she whispered, "You don't know the truth. This is about everything we've lost, every lie we've lived." Clara's heart raced, confusion swirling. "What are you talking about?" Elvira stepped closer, lowering her voice. "It won't only shatter our family, it'll change how you see yourself. You need to decide if you're ready for the truth." Before she could say another word, the floor creaked ominously under them. Clara felt a shiver of dread. That's when something shifted in the shadows, a flicker of movement. Then, without warning, the trunk slammed shut as if possessed, amplifying the tension. Clara gasped, and the air turned ice cold. The light in the attic flickered violently. "Elvira!" Clara shouted, heart racing. "What the hell is happening?" Elvira didn't respond. Her eyes were glassy, her mouth forming words Clara couldn't hear. Clara felt something shift in the very fabric of her reality, leaving her standing on the brink of unimaginable despair. What lay hidden here, not just in the attic, but within their lives? With her breath caught in her throat, she clutched the letter tighter, realizing something deep within her was about to break wide open. Would exposing the truth lead to their freedom, or would it haunt them forever? The attic was thick with tension. Clara felt her heart slam in her chest as she clutched the letter. Elvira's face was a storm, torn between fear and something darker. The air crackled with unspoken words. "Just tell me the truth," Clara shouted, frustration boiling over, but Elvira only shook her head. Her eyes glazed with unshed tears. The trunk loomed like a silent guardian, holding secrets that seemed almost alive. "Please, Clara," Elvira whispered, "some things are better left buried." But before she could say more, the room shook again, louder this time. The photos inside the trunk fluttered like bats awakening from a long slumber, a gust of wind spiraling around them. And then it happened. A deafening crash echoed, the whole house shuddering as if it were alive, and in that chaos, the trunk flew open. Clara stumbled back, eyes wide, as a swirl of dust erupted. But beneath the photographs, something else was there, something glimmering. What is that?" Clara gasped, squinting through the haze. As the dust settled, she saw it, a glint beneath the age-old materials. Slowly, she reached for it, her fingers trembling. It was a small, ornate box, not old like the trunk, but new, shining darkly with a hint of danger. "Elvira, what is that?" Her voice caught in her throat. The silence stretched, heavy with a weight. That felt unbearable. "I don't know, Clara." Elvira's eyes darted around, a mix of horror and helplessness. "Just leave it alone. You have to trust me." But Clara couldn't look away. She brushed away the dust and opened the box. Inside lay a necklace, a striking gem that pulsed with a weird, entrancing light. As she touched it, a shockwave of energy shot through her arm, and images burst in her mind. Flashes of emotions, laughter mixed with anger, faces she'd never seen. Among them, a fiery man with piercing eyes. "Clara!" Elvira screamed, a mix of panic and despair coloring her voice. "Put it down!" But Clara was lost in the visions, the cries, the joy, the pain. She grasped the necklace tighter, the heat intensifying around her. Suddenly, Elvira lunged forward, but it was too late. The moment their hands brushed, everything exploded. A blinding light filled the attic, blurring reality itself. Everything shifted. The shadows twisted into grotesque shapes. The walls shook. Clara felt herself being pulled, thrown into a vortex of memories, voices clamoring in her head. And then, just as abruptly, it stopped. Clara found herself outside in a field, wide and open, yet eerily quiet. The sun shone overhead, but the air crackled with a strange tension. She looked around, confusion settling in. Where was Elvira? Where was the attic? Then she heard it, a faint voice calling her name. As she turned, her breath caught. The voice belonged to a girl, a younger version of herself, standing in front of her, eyes wide with innocence. "Clara, you found me!" The world spun again, dizzying and destabilizing, and with each blink, Clara realized her reality was unthreading. The images of the attic, the letters, everything began to fade, but one thing remained, blaring in her mind. That necklace wasn't just a family heirloom. It was a gateway, and she had crossed into something far deeper than she could ever have imagined. "Who are you?" Clara's voice trembled. "What's happening?" The girl smiled. An eerie, knowing smile that chilled Clara to the bone. "You've unlocked the truth, and now you'll have to face it." Then, just as quickly as she had appeared, the girl vanished into thin air, leaving Clara alone, heart racing wildly as sky darkened above her. The threat of a storm brewing just behind her. What had she triggered? What truth awaited her in this unfamiliar world? Clara stood alone in the field, her heart racing as shadows danced around her. The girl was gone, leaving only a lingering chill in the air. What was that? She whispered to herself, fear curling in her stomach like a cold snake. Suddenly, the world felt too quiet, too still, like the calm before a storm. The atmosphere thickened. Clara turned slowly, scanning the horizon for any sign of Elvira, her grandmother, or the woman she thought she knew. Panic gripped her. What had happened in the attic? Had that light zapped them both into some other realm? Clara! The voice stretched out, familiar yet warped, echoing from all around her. Without warning, a figure burst from the swirling mist beyond the field. It was Elvira, but something was wrong. Her eyes were wild, and her breath came in sharp gasps. "Elvira!" Clara cried, relief flooding her voice. But as Elvira drew closer, Clara noticed the way her grandmother's features twisted in anguish. The woman stopped short, eyes flickering with indecision. "Clara, I didn't want you to find out this way." Elvira's voice shook like a tree in a tempest. "What are you talking about? What happened? I was just—" But before Clara could finish, a thunderous crash erupted in the distance, shaking the ground beneath them. Clara stumbled, then straightened, eyes wide with dread. What was that? Elvira's expression hardened, her mouth pressing into a thin line. "We have to go now!" But Clara stood rooted, confusion flooding her mind. "Why? What's happening?" "Just trust me," Elvira snapped, her voice sharp like cracking glass. As Clara watched, a dark shadow swept across the sky behind her grandmother, and suddenly it hit her. The storm wasn't just weather. It felt alive, pulsating with a dark energy. "Leave everything behind. You don't understand," Elvira shouted, panic rising in her tone as she stepped closer. "Understand what?" Clara fired back, grounding herself in place. "You're not making sense. What lies have you buried? Is it about the letters? The necklace? The boy in the photo?" "Elvira, tell me." Clara's voice cracked. She was losing control of something vital. With a sudden rush, Elvira grasped Clara's shoulders, her grip fierce. "That picture, you don't know who he is. That man was not what you think." Clara's pulse quickened as the pieces began to swirl. "What do you mean?" Before Elvira could respond, the winds howled as a familiar light erupted from the soil. Clara's gaze darted to the ground, where the dark energy twisted and contorted, breaking apart the grass. Then, with a bone-chilling clash, the light erupted into a portal-like whirlpool, dragging them forward. Elvira cried out, but the world spun, colors exploding like shattered glass. In the chaos, Clara felt the distortions forming around her, pulling at her very essence. And there, in the eye of the storm, she heard him, a voice deeper and colder than the ocean itself. "Welcome home, Clara." The figure emerged from the portal, shrouded in darkness, but just as recognizable. It was the man from the photograph. Clara froze, her breath hitching. Who are you?" But instead of answering, he simply smiled, the corners of his mouth curling like a predator revealing its teeth. "You are not who you think you are. The truth runs deeper than any letter could reveal." The ground cracked beneath Clara, her heart pounding violently as shadows shifted forth, swallowing Elvira whole. "No!" Clara screamed, reaching for her, but the dark figure raised a hand, silencing her. "Do you really want to know who you are?" His voice slid through the air like ice. In that moment, everything fell away. Her identity, her family, the pain. Everything she had clung to shattered like glass. "Clara!" Elvira's voice called from somewhere distant, desperate and lost. "Get away from her!" Clara cried, desperation clawing at her throat as she attempted to break free from the grip of this new reality. But the truth hung in the air, heavy and electric. "What do you want from us?" Clara's voice trembled through the storm, containing a challenge and a plea. Because in that moment of swirling chaos, she understood she was teetering on the edge of discovery. She could shatter the darkness and find the truth, or be consumed by it forever. "Choose wisely," he whispered, and the storm clenched tighter around her, still swirling with secrets yet to be uncovered. Clara's breath hitched as the darkness loomed closer. The man's smile twisted into something cruel, sending ripples of fear through her. "You don't even know the half of it," he said, his voice smooth like silk but jagged like glass. "Everything you thought you understood, it's all a fabrication." As she stumbled back, the air shimmered, and an icy shiver swept through her. "What are you talking about?" Clara's voice quivered, her heart hammering. The portal behind him flickered like a dying flame, casting eerie shadows that twisted around like snakes. In the distance, she could feel Elvira's presence fading, her mother's voice trapped somewhere in the storm. "Clara, you mustn't listen!" Elvira cried desperately. But Clara barely heard her over the pounding in her ears. "He's lying!" Elvira shouted again. But Clara was frozen, her gaze locked on the man who claimed to know her. The way he moved was fluid, unnatural. "You can't trust him!" With a swift motion, the man stepped forward, and the skies rumbled in response. "Your mother made choices, Clara. Choices that altered everything. You are not just a bystander in this story." He extended his hand, revealing a ring, the same ring Clara had seen in the photo. "You wear her legacy as a mask." The shock clicked like a trap door opening beneath her. "What?" Clara gasped, her hands trembling. "You can't mean—" "Yes," he said, tilting his head, shadows curling around him. "You are the key to a legacy filled with secrets that your dear grandmother has carried alone for far too long. Secrets that could tear apart what's left of your family." Before she could respond, the ground beneath her shimmered, revealing a dark pit where no soil should have been. "You think you're searching for truth? You've only scratched the surface." "No!" Elvira's voice pierced through the storm. "You don't know what you're saying, Clara. None of this is real." But the ground shook violently, interrupting Elvira. Clara's heart pounded. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, panic rising. "I want you to embrace who you really are," he roared, his voice echoing like thunder. But then, as if the fabric of reality itself was rending, Clara felt an enormous pull. Everything spun again, and she grasped onto the moment, watching as Elvira reached out, her face a mask of terror. "Clara!" Elvira screamed, but it was too late. The ground beneath Clara opened wide, and a flash of blinding light erupted. For a brief moment, she saw glimpses of her past, fragments of the attic, the letters, the pictures, memories flooding in like a tidal wave. Then, silence fell heavy, and she was enveloped in darkness. When clarity returned, Clara found herself in an unfamiliar space. It was a grand room, light spilling in through massive windows. But everything felt wrong. The furniture looked familiar, almost as if she was in the house she grew up in, but every detail was slightly off. Then she turned around, and her breath caught in her throat. Standing there, alive and radiant, was her mother, the woman she thought she had lost. Clara's heart ached with confusion and desperate hope. "Mom?" she whispered, stepping forward. In that instant, her mother smiled, but something flickered in her eyes. Clara, you've finally come home. But as Clara moved closer, her mother's features shifted. The warmth faded, replaced by an expression of icy determination. You needed to know the truth. You and Elvira have been kept in the dark for far too long. Clara felt the ground beneath her shift as everything spiraled. What truth? She asked, incredulous and terrified. But her mother simply smiled, a smirk now gracing her lips. That you have always been meant to rule. Before Clara could respond, shadows leaped from the corners of the room, enveloping her. In that moment, she understood profoundly that everything she thought was reality was about to change forever. What kind of legacy had she stepped into? And who was the real enemy in her quest for the truth? The pieces still hovered, but Clara felt a surge of clarity. She was trapped between worlds, and she knew she had to break free. But at what cost? The air crackled, and Clara felt the tension tighten like a noose around her throat. Her mother's expression shifted from warmth to something colder, darker, like a winter's night filling with impending gloom. "You've finally come home," her voice echoed eerily. "What does that mean?" Clara's words stumbled out, begging for answers. Behind her, shadows writhed like hungry spirits. "What are you hiding from me?" A shudder rippled through the room, shadows clawing at the walls, making Clara's heart race. "I'll never be a part of your games. Just tell me the truth." She stepped closer, fear prickling her skin. But before her mother could respond, a deafening crash shattered the stillness. The windows rattled, and the ground shook violently. Clara stumbled, her stomach lurching. "Mom!" she screamed, eyes darting around for an escape. Her mother's cold smile curled once more. "Oh, Clara, I didn't want you to find out like this," she said, almost too calm for the chaos enveloping them. "But it's time for you to understand." And then, as if summoned by her words, a swirling mist burst from the shadows, coalescing into a familiar figure. Elvira. But something was off. The look in her eyes was hollow, as if she were staring through a fog of deep anguish. "Clara!" Elvira's voice broke through the noise. "You mustn't listen to her." "Do you see now?" The man from the photograph appeared behind Clara, his presence casting a long shadow. "You think you know your family, but we're not who you believe us to be." Clara shook her head in disbelief. "What are you talking about? Who are you all?" Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the room momentarily. And then the air grew heavy, charged with anticipation, as the man stepped forward. "Because you have to know, Clara." His gaze burned into hers. "You are not just Clara. You have a legacy, a power that your family has been protecting for generations." "What?" Her voice trembled, ice seeping into her veins. "What power?" But before he could respond, Elvira lunged forward, grabbing Clara's shoulder with a force that jolted her. "You can't trust him. We have to escape, now!" Suddenly, a tremor erupted beneath their feet, and the ground cracked wide open. Clara's heart raced as the floor quaked violently, everything tipping, tilting. The shadows swirled, a vortex of darkness, ready to swallow them whole. "No!" Clara shouted, reaching for her mother. "Get back!" But the man laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the chaos. "You can't escape your true self, Clara. You were always meant to find this place, to embrace who you are." And in a horrifying twist, Clara's mother and Elvira locked eyes, a silent exchange passing between them, as if this massive revelation was something they'd always known. Clara's heart sank, confusion twisting in her gut. What did you do? Just then, an ice-cold blast of wind swept through, and Clara gasped, her breath visible as it hung in the air. The shadows surged forward, engulfing them, and she felt the world blur around her. Clara, remember. Elvira's voice sliced through the dark. Remember who you truly are. But before the darkness fully consumed Clara, she saw it, a flicker of light slicing through the chaos. And in that moment of clarity, she felt a surge of strength she didn't know she possessed. "I won't let you take me," she shouted, forcing her eyes open. She reached deep into her memory, grasping for the fragments of power she could feel thrumming within. But as the darkness began to pull her away, an unexpected twist seized her heart. Elvira and her mother moved as one, racing to her side. Their hands met, and suddenly everything erupted. In one blinding flash, the world imploded on itself. Clara found herself standing in the middle of the attic again. But everything was wrong. The cot was still there, the trunk, and yet it felt hauntingly vacant. She spun around, breathless. What just happened? Her eyes fell on the mirror. Her reflection didn't smile back, but instead, "Welcome back, Clara," a voice whispered behind her, chilling and familiar. Her heart dropped as she recognized the voice. It was her mother, but not the one she'd just seen. This one was a stranger, hollow and twisted. "You've arrived in the right place. Time for the real secrets to unfold." And as Clara's reflection smiled back, deeper shadows flickered around her, pushing everything she once believed about her family to the brink of destruction. "What are you?" Clara whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. But the reflection only chuckled, a dark sound reverberating in the stillness. "You'll find out soon enough, because the thread of fate has only just begun to unravel." The room spun around her, and she understood one chilling truth. The real journey was only just beginning. The room swirled around Clara, shadows licking at the edges of her vision. Her mother's smile felt like ice, and she staggered back, breath hitching in her throat. "What are you?" she whispered, desperation clawing at her chest. The reflection in the mirror grinned wider. "You have no idea what you're capable of. We've waited so long for you to step into your true self," it said, laughter echoing through the attic like a haunting melody. Just then, the attic door slammed shut. The sound ricocheted off the walls, sealing Clara in with this twisted version of reality. "No," she shouted, spinning around. "I won't listen to you." "Why fight it, Clara?" her mother said smoothly. "This is who you are. You were never just an ordinary girl, remember?" Shadows coalesced around them, thickening the air, each breath Clara took feeling constricted, taut like a wire. Suddenly, the ornate box from before shook violently, and Clara's heart raced as she watched it tremble on the floor. In a split second, it burst open. A rush of energy surged from within, and Clara's breath caught in her throat. A blinding light shot out, but instead of revelations, it shattered into hundreds of shards, each reflecting memories, images she didn't fully recognize. Her childhood blended with flashes of anger, laughter twisted with brutality. The mirror trembled, and her reflection morphed into flashes of Elvira, her grandmother, standing firm yet terrified. "Clara, don't trust them. Remember the letters. Remember our family's truth." But it was too late. The moment another version of herself, older, darker, with an air of authority that felt foreign yet familiar. "Welcome back, Clara," the older version said, eyes glinting dangerously. "I've been waiting for you." "What?" Clara gasped, heart racing faster than she could comprehend. "Who are you?" "I'm everything you could be if you stop hiding." Before Clara could object, the room plunged into a cacophony of screams, Elvira's voice mixing with her mother's, then fading into echoes. Shadows spiraled tighter around her, ready to strike. "You think you're the only survivor of our legacy? You're wrong!" The figure's voice thundered, shaking the ground beneath her. Then it happened. The light coalesced one more time into a sharp crystal that shot through Clara, piercing tingling at her center. Images overwhelmed. She saw Elvira's sacrifice, her mother's dark deals, the truth of generations buried beneath lies and nightmares. Each breath felt heavier, filled with despair. "That's it," the older Clara shouted, her voice merging with the storm. "Embrace who you are. You have powers, Clara, but they come at a cost." "No, this isn't who I am," Clara screamed back. But doubt crept in. Could it be true? The weight of her mother's gaze convinced her otherwise. But just as hope began to flicker, reality twisted again. The shadows erupted, lashing out like serpents, ripping Clara's attention away from the struggle. And in an instant, the attic vanished, replaced by the glow of a menacing kingdom, dark and foreboding. "What is happening?" Clara cried, stumbling as she found herself surrounded by a throne room, echoes of laughter and sorrow resonating from the walls. She turned back, but Elvira stood with a knowing look, a tear trickling down her cheek. In that moment, the truth slammed into her like a freight train. The flickering light grew, illuminating Elvira and her mother, both locked in an embrace far too intimate, whispered confessions splattering the walls with raw secrets. "You betrayed us," Clara shouted, heart twisted in shock. Elvira's eyes widened. "No, we were protecting you, Clara." But the truth was there, unavoidable, raw. Everything she believed was a lie. She had to decide. Could she reclaim her power, or would betrayal break her apart? As the walls echoed with past secrets, Clara stood trembling as shadows whispered her name, ready to pull her into their dark embrace. "Who will you choose, Clara?" the shadowy version of herself asked, reaching out, the weight of destiny heavy upon her shoulders. The air hummed with anticipation, and Clara stood at the edge of everything she ever knew. Could she step into her own truth, or would she lose herself forever? Clara stood frozen, shadows swirling around her like dark whispers. Her mother, or what she thought was her mother, had morphed into something twisted, something she hardly recognized. The figure of her older self loomed, embodying everything she feared and desired, taunting her with the promise of power. "What do you want from me?" Clara's voice trembled, the words barely escaping her lips. The air crackled with energy, thick and suffocating, as if the room itself held its breath. "Embrace it," the older version of Clara urged, eyes glimmering with a mixture of longing and challenge. "You're destined to bring order to chaos. Just let go." "No!" Clara shouted, shaking her head furiously. "You're wrong!" With that, the shadows pulsed, writhing as though alive, and without warning, Clara felt a surge, a violent pull that began to crumble the reality around her. The floor cracked, splitting open like a thunderous mouth, threatening to swallow her whole. "Clara!" Elvira's voice pierced through the chaos, sharp and urgent. "You have to remember what's at stake." But Clara was too caught in the storm of her fate. Her vision blurred, and the light shifted, casting distorted reflections of her past, moments of laughter, whispers of danger, fragments of broken promises. Then, suddenly, the cracking ceased, hanging the air like a taut wire. A figure emerged from the shadows, stepping through the chaos with a purpose that made Clara's heart race. It was a woman, but not just any woman. It was someone Clara had never met. She had features strikingly similar to her mother's, but the eyes were different, vibrant, full of fire. "Who are you?" Clara gasped, every instinct on high alert, as dread settled in her chest. "You're not who you think," the woman replied calmly, her voice wrapping around the chaos like a soft blanket. "You're a part of something much bigger. Clara, I'm your mother's sister." Clara's mind reeled. "What? That's not possible. I don't have—" "You do," the woman interrupted, stepping closer, shadows parting as if acknowledging her authority. "Elvira protected you. Your mother chose to erase me, to erase the truth." The room shifted once more, revealing a hidden tapestry adorning the walls, depicting a legacy spanning generations. Sorrows masked by joy, shadows intertwined with light. Clara's heart hammered louder with each tapestry scene. "Your mother kept me away. She feared the power we both hold. You are the culmination of our bloodline's strength," the woman said, her gaze intense. "No," Clara's voice faltered. "I don't believe this. My mom would never." But as Clara looked back at her mother, the coldness now evident in her eyes, doubt seeped through her defenses. "Think of the letters, Clara," Elvira chided, desperation etched on her face. "They spoke of family. This is their legacy." "I don't know who to believe anymore," Clara cried, her voice breaking. Click! A heavy sound echoed in the silence that followed. The ornate box on the floor began to shake, ribbons of light unraveling like silk. The shadows shrank back, revealing secrets wrapped tightly within. "Open it," the woman said, urgency thrumming through her tone. "Unveil the truth." But just as Clara stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay hidden, the ground shook violently again. Without warning, the woman's expression twisted in pain, as if a knife had struck deep within her. She fell to her knees, gasping. "No!" Clara shrieked, watching in horror as cracks pulsed through the room. Dark energy, surging from the ground, enveloping the woman. "What's happening?" "Clara, you have to choose," the woman wheezed, desperate. "When the truth is revealed, only then can you reclaim your destiny." The turmoil reached its peak. Clara felt her very essence being pulled between worlds, caught in a torrent of emotions. Fear, power, loss. Suddenly, the shadows erupted, swirling furiously, and in that moment, the air grew icy, freezing time. Then, with an explosive burst, the room shattered. Clara landed back in the attic, gasping for breath, surrounded by the familiar clutter. But the air was different. It was charged, electric. And when she turned to her mother, Elvira's expression was twisted in fear. "What did you do?" Clara whispered, dread filling every corner of her mind. But as Elvira blinked, a glimmer of something wicked crossed her features, a crack in her unwavering facade. "Oh, Clara, you've awakened something we weren't ready for." Clara's world tilted. "What do you mean?" Before Elvira could respond, the ceiling above cracked, bright light pouring in. A shadowy figure began to emerge, echoing the earlier chaos, swirling, consuming everything in its path. And as the figure loomed closer, Clara's heart dropped. She recognized the face, her own dark reflection, eyes swirling with malice, and a smile that promised chaos. "Welcome home, Clara," it sneered. "Let's unveil the truth." In that instant, everything she thought she knew crumbled beneath her feet. What did awakening this darkness mean? Was she the one destined to bring order, or the chaos itself? Clara stood frozen, shadows swirling around her like dark whispers. Her mother, or what she thought was her mother, had morphed into something twisted, something she hardly recognized. The figure of her older self loomed, embodying everything she feared and desired, taunting her with the promise of power. "What do you want from me?" Clara's voice trembled, the words barely escaping her lips. The air crackled with energy, thick and suffocating, as if the room itself held its breath. "Embrace it," the older version of Clara urged, eyes glimmering with a mixture of longing and challenge. "You're destined to bring order to chaos. Just let go." "No," Clara shouted, shaking her head furiously. "You're wrong." With that, the shadows pulsed, writhing as though alive, and without warning, Clara felt a surge, a violent pull that began to crumble the reality around her. The floor cracked, splitting open like a thunderous mouth, threatening to swallow her whole. "Clara!" Elvira's voice pierced through the chaos, sharp and urgent. "You have to remember what's at stake." But Clara was too caught in the storm of her fate. Her vision blurred, and the light shifted, casting distorted reflections of her past. Moments of laughter, whispers of danger, fragments of broken promises. Then, suddenly, the cracking ceased, hanging in the air like a taut wire. A figure emerged from the shadows, stepping through the chaos with a purpose that made Clara's heart race. It was a woman, but not just any woman. It was someone Clara had never met. She had features strikingly similar to her mother's, but the eyes were different, vibrant, full of fire. "Who are you?" Clara gasped, every instinct on high alert as dread settled in her chest. "You're not who you think," the woman replied calmly, her voice wrapping around the chaos like a soft blanket. "You're a part of something much bigger. Clara, I'm your mother's sister." Clara's mind reeled. "What? That's not possible. I don't have—" "You do," the woman interrupted, stepping closer. Shadows parting as if acknowledging her authority. "Elvira protected you. Your mother chose to erase me, to erase the truth." The room shifted once more, revealing a hidden tapestry adorning the walls, depicting a legacy spanning generations, sorrows masked by joy, shadows intertwined with light. Clara's heart hammered louder. With each tapestry seen, "Your mother kept me away. She feared the power we both hold. You are the culmination of our bloodline strength," the woman said, her gaze intense. "No," Clara's voice faltered. "I don't believe this. My mom would never." But as Clara looked back at her mother, the coldness now evident in her eyes, doubt seeped through her defenses. "Think of the letters, Clara," Elvira shouted, desperation etched on her face. "They spoke of family. This is their legacy." "I don't know who to believe anymore," Clara cried, her voice breaking. Click! A heavy sound echoed in the silence that followed. The ornate box on the floor began to shake, and Clara's heart raced as she watched it tremble. In a split second, it burst open. A rush of energy surged from within, and Clara's breath caught in her throat. A blinding light shot out, but instead of revelations, it shattered into hundreds of shards, each reflecting memories, images she didn't fully recognize. Her childhood blended with flashes of anger, laughter twisted with brutality. The mirror trembled, and her reflection morphed into flashes of Elvira, her grandmother, standing firm yet terrified. Clara, don't trust them. Remember the letters. Remember our family's truth. But it was too late. The moment she thought she understood, turmoil erupted. A figure emerged from the shards, silhouetted against the light. It was another version of herself, older, darker, with an air of authority that felt foreign yet familiar. "Welcome back, Clara," the older version said, eyes glinting dangerously. "I've been waiting for you." "What?" Clara gasped, heart racing faster than she could comprehend. "Who are you?" "I'm everything you could be if you stop hiding." Before Clara could object, the room plunged into a cacophony of screams, Elvira's voice mixing with her mother's, then fading into echoes. The shadows surged forward, engulfing her, and she felt the world blur around her. "Clara, remember." Elvira's voice sliced through the dark. "Remember who you truly are." But before the darkness fully consumed Clara, she saw it, a flicker of light slicing through the chaos. And in that moment of clarity, she felt a surge of strength she didn't know she possessed. "I won't let you take me!" she shouted, forcing her eyes open. She reached deep into her memory, grasping for the fragments of power she could feel thrumming within. But as the darkness began to pull her away, an unexpected twist seized her heart. Elvira and her mother moved as one, racing to her side. Their hands met, and suddenly, everything erupted. In one blinding flash, the world imploded on itself. Clara found herself in a different place, bright and shimmering, like the stars cradling the night. It was a void, but not empty. Shadows danced like echoes around her, whispering familiar words. She blinked, and memories flooded in. Her childhood, laughter, warmth. But then they twisted. Horrifying images flickered, memories of someone else's pain. Clara's breath hitched. The truth rushed forward. The hidden tapestry unveiled the darkest secret. Her mother wasn't just protective. She was part of a lineage cursed by betrayal. The power she had was not a gift, but a weight meant to shackle generations. Her heart raced. "No!" Clara exclaimed as the realization struck. "It can't be!" But the shadows deepened, and she heard a laugh echoing through the void. It was her mother's laugh, familiar and unsettling. "You see, my dear Clara," her mother's voice rang out, chilling and distant. "You are the chosen one. The darkness is your birthright." Clara's skin prickled, confusion giving way to horror. "Birthright?" she echoed. "You lied to me." "Lied?" The voice was layered with sweet malice. "I protected you, as did Elvira. Together, they shielded you from your true power, your destiny. And now you are ready. Are you ready to wield it?" The dread coiled deeper in Clara's stomach. "Wield what? You mean chaos?" "Yes," came the answer, luminous and dark. "It is your inheritance. It is your choice to reclaim it or let it slip through your fingers." Suddenly, everything tilted in her mind. The shadows closed in around her, illuminating the fabric of her reality. Clara didn't just have power. She had the ability to unravel worlds. "You're lying," she said, but doubt snaked through her heart. What if it were true? What if she truly was part of something much larger? The question loomed like a specter, and then the laughter enveloped her again, a blend of familiarity and dread. And without knowing why, Clara felt a strange pull to answer. "Embrace it, Clara," the shadows coaxed. "Step into the light. or remain in the dark. In that moment, Clara stood at the edge of her destiny, her heart pounding in her chest. What would she choose? And more importantly, could she trust her mother and Elvira? Everything hung in the balance, a delicate thread woven between choice and consequence. Would she unravel her family's legacy or weave her own? Clara's heart thundered as shadows pulsed around her, their chilling whispers echoing in her ears. You are the chosen one. Her mother's twin smiled, the words ringing with an unnerving certainty. But as the dark energy surged, Clara remembered Elvira's tearful warnings. "No!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the tempest. "You think I'll just accept this? I refuse to be your puppet." "Then you're caging your true self." The darkness thickened, but Clara stood firm, trembling but resolved. This wasn't just about her fate. It was about all the choices that led to this moment. She could feel the power surging within her, a flicker of light against the consuming shadows. "You don't control me." The strength echoed through her, igniting a fire in her chest. "Clara," Elvira's frightened voice whispered from the corner, a lifeline in the chaos. She fought against the malevolent figure near her mother, desperate to reach her. "You can break this cycle!" The ground shook violently. Clara's instincts took over. "I'd rather embrace the unknown than live a lie." She summoned everything she knew: her family, the letters, the warmth of memories, and the compassion of Elvira. With a roar that shook the very air, she spread her arms wide. Light erupted from her, scattering the shadows like fragile paper. The dark figure sneered, but Clara was unyielding. "I am not alone!" With explosive force, the shadows recoiled. Clara felt her strength spreading outward, intertwining with Elvira, with the truth of her lineage. She reached for the dark figure, feeling the energies collide. "You are nothing without fear. I choose love and truth." As darkness clashed with light, a shockwave sent Clara reeling, but she stood her ground. The room crackled with tension, the shadows shrieking in agony as they fought against her. A blinding burst of light sent everything spiraling, fading into a calm that settled the storm. Clara found herself back in the attic, still cluttered, still familiar. But everything held a new warmth. Elvira knelt beside her, eyes bright with tears of relief. "You did it, Clara. You brought back the light." "What about my mother?" Clara asked, fear tightening her chest. "She has been released from the shadow," Elvira replied gently, turning Clara's face toward her. "She will have to confront her truths, just as we all must." Clara nodded, eyes brimming. The burden of generations lingered. Yet she felt a flicker of hope. The love she had cultivated was stronger than the damage done. "There's still a long way to go," Elvira murmured, giving her a meaningful look. "But you are no longer bound. You can shape your destiny now." Clara breathed in. The stillness, the familiar scent of dust and cedar laced with remnants of thunder. "I will find a way to heal our family, I promise." As the sun began to set, golden rays shot through the attic window, illuminating the dust motes that danced like little stars. Clara smiled, her heart swelling with the dawn of new beginnings. "We'll write our own story, together." Elvira nodded, pride shimmering in her gaze. They gathered the letters and photographs, remnants of a past now transformed into pieces of their new future. With each tentative step backward into the light, Clara felt lighter. She could finally breathe. She turned to Elvira, grinning. "Let's talk about the letters." As they dived into the history that bound them, Clara felt hope bloom anew, brighter than she'd ever known. And with that, She resolved to navigate every shadow that dared to dim her path. If you're still here with us, now is the time to take action. You have to subscribe right now to our channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and keep the magic flowing. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. They will thank you later. This is the moment to show your support. Jump in now.